I'm going to start off by introducing you to the members, some of the members of the African American Film Critics Association. We're going to start with the fabulous one, the one who told me to get a light kit, the Kirby critic. I got the light kit, I just haven't installed it yet. But on Thursday, I'm going to be popping. The Kirby critic, Carla Renato.
Hey, y'all.
Yes. We have Rasha Penrice in Atlanta. Carla's in LA, by the way. We have Albert McGee, who just left his position in Miami. Or it's Boca Raton, actually, right? We have,
yes.
There's Jeremy. Okay. We have the lovely Katia in Philadelphia.
Good morning, good afternoon.
We have Mercedes Williams in Pittsburgh. And we have Patrick Riley in New York. And of course, we have the voice of God, whose name says Gil Robertson, but he's actually our producer, Mr. Ed Adams in Stone Mountain, Georgia.
What? The Stone Mountain represent?
And I'm Gil Robertson in Marietta, Georgia for today. I can't get home to LA, so I'm stuck here for a while. But without further ado, we're going to get this started. So I'm going to let you guys, AAFCA, do your thing.
For both Laura and Jeremy, what was your approach to your characters, especially it being a period theme? Like, how did you get into your character? What kind of research did you do? How did you like really evoke that era, even as you're reimagining it?
You too.
Okay. Well, for me, I just sort of started, first of all, watching movies of that time period and just sort of started trying to get a feel of it and see the sense of how people spoke and how they carried themselves and how they walked and everything. But, you know, it was not super easy because this is a time period that I loved old movies and I grew up watching them and seeing Casablanca and all that stuff, but I never felt connected to it because we didn't see us in that. And you never saw people who looked like you in roles that were aspirational, or very rarely. So I kind of then tried to figure out like who that would be. And of course, Dorothy Dandridge was a big influence for me. She was kind of like the main person I modeled Camille off of. But she had a really sad life. So I wanted to sort of hope that Camille's ending was a bit more positive than Dorothy's. But, you know, watching Carmen Jones and watching a bunch of interviews with her and seeing, you know, as many of her moves as I could was the most helpful thing in creating Camille. But then that being said, like as much as we can do as actors for research, so much of it is that when you get to set and you see, you know, all of the extras driving around in 40s cars and having the clothes and the hair and the red lip and everything, that really sort of then creates the character because that changes the way that I walk and that I sit and my posture and everything. So it really kind of was a culmination of everything for me.
Yeah, very similar to me. I think me and Laura are playing fictional characters, so we have to create the world for ourselves. So what I did was, you know, as meeting Ryan, he was telling me, I want you to play this Black, gay, aspiring screenwriter. And I was like, okay, that sounds very ambitious, but if we're talking like 40s and we're really gonna talk about it, like I have two strikes on me, one being a Black man and then one trying to be a gay man. Or being a gay man and trying to occupy a space, an industry that isn't built for people like us. So I knew that in building Archie, he would have to have so much swag. He had to have so much confidence because I was like, it would take an uberly confident person to be able to like really think that he could like see success. So that was kind of how we started, or how I started building the character. I based him a little bit off of like James Baldwin, someone who was a little bit, I think, ahead of his time, you know, who was experienced and knowledge and kind of saw a world that we kind of weren't tuned into yet. So that felt like the drive I needed and it motivated most of the action that Archie took because he was fearless and he was confident.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, y'all. How you doing?
Hey.
Hey. So I'm a fangirl out for 2 seconds. Camille, you were in that reboot of One Life to Live, and I am a diehard ABC Soap fan. So there's that. I'm also a Broadway baby. So Jeremy, let me just give you homage for your 2 Tony nominations. That was historic. So congratulations on that. And now I'm gonna get to my question. Okay. So What was your first screen test like for both of you? What was your very first screen test like? And how did that compare to this experience in Hollywood?
Mine was for Spider-Man. So that was really scary because it was a first screen test and it was for something very big and for Marvel and all of that stuff. And I think I had like 6 auditions or something, 6 or 7 auditions, and then finally had a big screen test with Tom, who plays Spider-Man, and the director. So I think I didn't hear anything for like 6 weeks after that. It was pretty nerve-wracking. And that compared to my Hollywood, I mean, Camille has a screen test in this, obviously, and it was weirdly similar to how they are in real life. It kind of felt like we were really having this audition in Samara, and I kept saying that because you're standing there and there was a whole wall of people judging you, and you're on camera and you're trying to read these sides, but the person who's reading with you just speaks like a robot like this, and it's never somebody that's actually bringing the best performance out of you. So they really, I think, nailed that in our screen test scene. Obviously, you know, Spider-Man is a bit more lighthearted than stuff that Camille was actually dealing with. But it was pretty true to life, that scene, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. My first
Jeremy?
screen test, I had auditioned for Empire, and I think I auditioned like on a Wednesday, and like that night I got a call, like, they need you to get on a flight. You need to sign your contract. You need to do like all this stuff. It was kind of like my first TV test deal. So I flew out to LA for 48 hours, and it was like me and Jesse and Lee, and we were just kind of like all going in different rooms with different brothers. And that was weird, like pairing you with different people. You know, and like, you don't want to go home. I think we were there for so many hours. You don't want to go home because you don't want the journey to be done. You don't want to feel like you got cut. And we made it all the way to the end. And then I was kind of like waiting for the call. Didn't get it, but all things work out. All things work out the way they're supposed to. But yeah, that was very, I think I was 20 at the time. So I was like just finishing school in New York, very anxious, very nervous. But Lee was very comforting in the room. I also think having like a Black person on the other side, like he was able to kind of give me some real talk and tell me like, this is all kind of BS, but I need you to just like reel it in and let's have a good conversation. So it was a good experience. It wasn't as traumatic as it could have been.
Thank you so much.
Hollywood and both of you guys was great in this. I really enjoyed it. But this was during a time period in our history, in our American history, was the most terrible times for race relations and gay relations and things like that. Why do you think that Netflix wanted to do a subject matter like this for their station?
I think Ryan, I think what Ryan does with all of his projects is, you know, he's larger than life. He thinks outside of the box, and he's really a person that wants to give the outsiders opportunities. He knows the power that's behind the Ryan Murphy. So who other in the industry that would be able to get people to kind of listen and pay attention to something than Ryan Murphy? I think he was discovering the show as we were creating it. When we first were pitched the show, it was very heavy on the sex and the sex work behind it. You know, this gas station that did exist, and how celebrities had to kind of keep this exotic sexual activity private because this, you know, they couldn't be outward about it. But then as we started to, you know, Laura stepped into her character, and all of us, you know, brought what we brought to these characters. He saw what the heart was of the show. And I think the heart lies in just giving these kids, these underdogs, these people that missed an opportunity, like giving them their opportunity, giving them their shine. If we change the history of one movie, how does that affect the entire industry? And I think it's kind of owed to like people that are in power, or we as artists, like the more we fight for the things we believe in and like want to see, it's like you only need to see it once for it to have such a massive effect on the world. I think that's what our show and the fantasy of it all is doing. So I think he just became interested in like the revisionist history. Had Rock Hudson, who was an iconic, you know, Hollywood actor, who, you know, had HIV, had he been able to be out about his sexuality, like what would that have been like? What if we give these people a happy ending? One thing I thought was interesting when we were filming was the Hattie McDaniel story, where like in our history, she was the first person to win an Oscar, right? But when you really take the time to understand what that night was like, she was not allowed to sit in her seat, and they escorted her in right before her category. They wrote a speech for her. So it was kind of like, even in the like historical moment of her having this like moment for us, like, yes, we're finally being seen, we're finally being represented. It's like, there's still someone holding her back and not allowing her to be all of herself. So I think he became interested in, just like he being Ryan, like, what if we took all that away and gave these people, like their chance, their moment? Like, how could that have affected the world? What would the industry look like?
Thank you, Jeremy.
Good morning, all. And my question is for Jeremy. I'm going to fangirl from I Saw You in Choir Boy. You were beyond amazing, and congratulations on all your success. My question is to you. One of the things I talked to Janet about is that Archie was not ashamed of who he was, and he stood in his truth. Like, even when he got arrested, he wasn't like, oh my God, people are going to find out. He was more or less like, how is this going to stop his forward progress? Did you find solace in that? Did you find that very affirming, that you didn't have to play this role with shame, or have to kind of like be feeling like, this is something to have to be explained? He was just existing.
Yeah, I mean, I found there was so much power in just that. I love that they allowed me to lean into that side of not being ashamed of who he was and what he had to do to get the things that he wants. I just, it just gives this power to this Black man who, when we meet him, he doesn't have power. He has created a world that works for him. He's figured out a way to navigate, to see little wins and little successes. And he knows that, with giving the right opportunity, with pretending to be a white man on a phone, like, he's taking steps to, like, I'm getting closer to the biz. I think one thing that's interesting that we talk about in our show, it's very like a crabs in a barrel moment between Archie and Camille. Laura's character is, when they do, bring this idea of what if Laura tests as the lead in this movie. And it's kind of like these two Black people who, like, he's like, listen, I'm happy for you, but I didn't come to Hollywood to make those type of movies. Like, I'm trying to break that barrier. I'm trying to, like, seek a new mountain. And she hits me with, like, well, I didn't come out here to play maids. And it's kind of this idea of, like, can two Black people thrive at the same time? I think often we wonder, is there room for all of us, or is there just room for one of us? So I think, like, we tackle so many, like, race issues, as best as we can. And Janet was definitely like there to help facilitate that. But I think, with Laura playing Camille and me playing Archie, it was like the more we leaned into the strength of those characters, because I just feel like in the 40s, it had to be a tough time. I know it's a tough time. We look at the history and we know what Black people were going through in the South and the North. So it's kind of like, to think that you have a chance in Hollywood, in an industry, again, that's not built for you. They're literally not making movies for you, but somehow you're going to keep grinding and keep hitting that pavement to, like, break the barrier. I just knew they had to be built on strength, and they couldn't be ashamed of anything. They had to just stand in all that they are.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Hi, this is Patrick Riley in New York, co-host of the Happy Hour Talk Show. I love both of you in Hollywood. I'm interested in knowing, given your success last year here in New York, Jeremy, with Choir Boy and Ain't Too Proud, and Laura, given your splash on the big screen, if you will, in Black Klansman, how are each of you carrying these iconic things that are happening in your career at this point, early on, if you will? How are you carrying it? How are you staying centered in the headiness of it all?
I mean, I think throughout all of my projects, and especially Hollywood, I've been really fortunate to work with people who are grounded. I think that's such an important thing. It's never felt like we're making this for ego or for outside sources or something other than telling stories that have been deemed important and I think are important, and for the greater good of storytelling. I think Hollywood's something that's important. I think Black Klansman affected a lot of people. I know, Jeremy's success on Broadway has affected a lot of people. It's about kind of more than us, and working with people like Ryan and Janet and Spike Lee, I just always felt that this is just for the world. It's not for me. So that's kind of what kept me centered. And also just being in Hollywood and getting to become friends with Jeremy and having, like normal people who you can also relate to through this. We're both at the beginning of our careers and have had all these kind of crazy things happen, but I think we can really connect with each other, relate to each other. So that's helpful to have friends to kind of keep it grounded and centered for me.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think, busting my butt theater ain't no joke, the 8 times a week schedule. But what you realize is it's all about the community and the people you surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. I think being in shows on Broadway, they become your family. Those are people you're seeing every night. They're people when you're like, I don't got it. Can you lift me up, brother? Like, sister, do you have me? And you have to like work as a unit. I'm so fortunate that I was able to start my career in the field of theater because it really is like training. You just, you become, it's like a work ethic. You just know how to, be consistent. You know how to show up for people. You know how to like hold your end of the weight. So that I tried to keep that like family, that community of people that hold me down, as I make my transition to screen. Last night, my mom threw me, because today was supposed to be our premiere for Hollywood. But obviously, things are different, but my mom threw a Zoom party.
I saw it and I didn't get the invite, so I was about to say something.
You were about to say something. Well, I didn't know. It was like,
I saw it.
It was like, first of all, it was a lot of her Facebook friends who I don't know, but they're like my number one supporter.
What was that last party? I didn't get the
But let me tell you, my mom threw this party via Zoom, and my brother was hosting it, and there was like 40 odd people, a lot of family and friends. They had a couple of like my friends from high school speak, and I was just really in tears because it's like that's why we do it. Like, we're doing it for all those aunties and uncles who said, I'm praying for you. I'm lifting you up while you're in New York or LA and you're hustling. And it's like, yeah, you go to the premieres and you do all the events and it's fun, but really you're just looking to go in the corner and like talk to your grandma and let her hear her just, just gush for a second. And it was just cool that everyone was able to speak, talk about the journey of it all. And we were all able to listen to each other. It was honestly one of the greatest moments of my life. I was trying to think of a moment where all of those people, my mom, my dad, grandma, friends, were like in the same room, listening to the same conversation. It was really special. But I think to answer your question, it's just about that community of people. You realize, kind of like harping what Laura says, it's bigger than me. I realized that like, it's not just about my success, but it's like the wins that I'm seeing, the wins that me and Laura are seeing are just like paving the way for so many people to feel seen and heard and to know that there is room at the table for them. So I just hope and I pray that I can continue to work to be able to like break those barriers and like honestly shock myself at like how like far I can dream. Cause I think at this point we passed the part of me dreaming. It was like, I just hope to make it in New York and pay my rent. But here we are, I'm able to like use my God-given gifts and like inspire people and still put food on my table. Like that's the dream come true. So I think like taking moments to remind myself of that, as crazy as it's gonna feel and get, it's like, reel it in. Who is it for? Why are you doing this? So I think yesterday was a good reminder for me that it's really about that inner circle of people who are gonna ride or die for you from like beginning to end,
And just to add, I think for our characters in Hollywood, I think that's kind of their motivations as well. Like for Camille and Archie, realizing that this is bigger than them. This is about breaking barriers. This is about the community and being, models for little Black boys and girls who could be looking up on the screen and relate to them and aspire to something bigger than society's told them they could do. So.
Yeah.
And for big boys and girls, you guys are hearing it well.
So I'm going to have a Zoom party later today so my family can know that Jeremy Pope and a Curvy Critic hyped me up today.
Yes.
Zoom call just
Lord,
for that.
check out her look. She got the jewels, the hair swoop, lips on fleek.
All
Woo!
right. On a more serious note, I would have to share the sentiments with some of my colleagues on this call. I was absolutely blown away by particularly you guys, Laura and Jeremy, your performances in Hollywood. And so what I want to know is how ironic, if any, for you to be a relatively new Black actor playing a new Black actor and or screenwriter in Hollywood, and how does it all come about after being on a set, having everything come out, and seeing your real life and the actor you're portraying kind of overlapping in some ways? I'll start with you, Laura.
Well, I think what we kept saying on set was that this is so meta all the time. It felt very meta. I mean, having, being an actress, playing an actress, it kind of got a lot to wrap my mind around at times. And it's weird because, this was a character I could relate to a lot. And I do feel, had I been born 80 years earlier, my life and Camille's might have been very similar. So it was really a character that I wanted to protect and take care of and do the most justice to her story that I could. And it wasn't a terribly far reach for me personally having to get to those places that Camille got to, just because I think our stories are similar and our drives and aspirations are really similar. So that was really, it's kind of such a gift as an actor when you get to play somebody that you really connect with and that you feel for in a lot of ways. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, same, I think I'm grateful to Ryan because I haven't worked a lot in film and TV. So I do feel very similar to Archie, like someone, took a chance on me, saw my talent, saw a gift, saw the light, and was like, I'm going to give you an opportunity. So from day one, it was like, here I am, I'm about to learn how to navigate this new land of working on a Ryan Murphy set, working for the TV. I've been fortunate to work so much in theater where my audience is there. I know who I'm talking to, but now building this show that is going to be seen by millions of people, and those millions of people are behind, this camera lens. So it was about changing my performance for that. So again, like Laura said, it was very meta. It was like, here you are, like hoping to get an opportunity, hoping that it hits, hoping that, people see it and receive it, well, with good intentions and good heart. So it was easy to kind of drop in and, understand the struggles that Archie, was facing at that time. Yeah.
How about you guys grade the landscape today? How different is it? There were some who might say that things, well, there certainly have been some, improvements, but how would you grade the landscape between today's Hollywood and the Hollywood in which your characters lived in the miniseries, in terms of race relations and opportunities for racial minorities and women?
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, I think, like you said, there has been progression, but these conversations about women in power, LGBTQ, Black people, of color, it's like we're still fighting for equal opportunities today. I think even if we just kind of do a quick look back to the past Oscars, so gratefully we had Cynthia Erivo representing us in the lead actress category, but other than that, it got real sleepy, and I think, again, it's just kind of like, that goes back to like, were we given opportunities to be eligible to be in that room? I think that's a moment that Camille's character or Laura's character has with Queen Latifah. She's like, it's just about being in the room. So it's like, we're just trying to fight to be seen, heard, and get a spot in the room. We were doing that 80 years ago. I think we're still trying to do that in certain rooms now for 2020.
Yeah, I think we still obviously have a ways to go, and there's obviously the lack of opportunities for us and to be in the room. But that being said, I do, doing the research for Camille and looking back at the history of Black actresses in Hollywood, I'm just so grateful for the women that came before me that paved the way so that I can be here doing this now, from Dorothy Dandridge to Lena Horne, and then, watching Halle Berry or Angela Bassett when I was growing up, and they're the reason that I'm able to be here. So it's really been like these uphill battles for Black actors, but I think people really made a lot of sacrifices and experienced a lot of difficulty, and that's the reason we are able to now have more representation, and hopefully just these barriers keep getting broken down.
Yeah.
Hi guys, my
How
name
you
is
doing?
Elias from Atlanta. I host a radio show up front inside Atlanta's entertainment industry. Jeremy, got a chance to see you a long time ago in Choir Boy at the Alliance Theater. Totally loved it. Knew you were a star then. So loved seeing you in Hollywood. Laura, loved you in Black Klansman. Again, saw you on the screen and was like, God, this girl is a major star. Were there any personal lessons that you learned about yourself that you didn't know before in your journey? And Laura, we can start with you.
I mean, I think, you know, we were so fortunate to work really closely with Janet Mock, who wrote and directed a bunch of, or I think 2 or 3 episodes, right?
Yeah.
And I just really loved working with her, and I had never been directed by a Black woman before. You know, unfortunately, that's a rare opportunity, and it was really interesting. You know, I've been so fortunate to work with a lot of amazing directors, but just the way that we could connect and talk about Camille's story was different than I think I would have been able to with other directors, because Janet's lived it. She knows what it's like to walk around with a Black woman in the world. She's struggled, and she's gone through a lot of adversity to get to where she is right now. So it was really special and helpful speaking to her about the scenes that I think I was able to get to a place in my performance and a deeper understanding of Camille than I would have been able to otherwise. And, you know, when I'm standing on the Hollywood side, bawling my eyes out, which I did for 12 hours, she was very encouraging, and it really was supportive and made me feel safe and helped me get to that place.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just like, you know, I'm still evolving. I think I'll always kind of be evolving as an artist. And especially now, I'm only 27, but, you know, and this is a new arena for me. But I would have these moments, and it was just a reminder to me when we were working on the show, just to like trust and like have faith in myself, if that makes sense. It's like that you are enough, that you are called here for a purpose, and to like lean into that. I think sometimes, like Laura was saying, we were fortunate to have Janet Mock, but she wasn't directing every episode. Yeah. So like top of the episode, or top, you know, first episode we were filming, and Ryan's there and he's so supportive, but I'm looking around and there's no one that looks like me. You know, I'm like looking for someone to just be like, I see you, I feel you, but it wasn't anyone there. And I would read certain things on the page, and I'm like, I don't know if a Black man would say it like this. Like, I feel like he might say it like this, or he would do something a little bit different, you know? So I had to just trust myself and go like, you're right. Your experience is right and valid. So I would have those conversations, those awkward conversations where I'd say, I think I should say it like this. I'm feeling like I want to approach it like this. And most of the time, 99% of the time, they would allow me, you know, the landscape and the access to do and to be. So I'm so grateful to the Hollywood team for allowing us to like fully be ourselves, to show up unapologetically Black and stand in that truth. We weren't playing the sidekicks. We weren't playing like the best friend down the street who has all the one-liners. It was like we could just stand in all of the things, the good, bad, the ugly. And like, I think that is hopeful and inspiring. It was hopeful and inspiring for me as an artist that people are writing parts for us to do that. You know, I'm so grateful that people get to see Laura in so many different like versions of Laura, and like her abilities, like we can stretch her, we can grow. And I think Janet saw that. She knew how to come in and like pull us and stretch us. Whereas some other directors, they were just loving the fact that we were there and we were Black and we were giving the, you know, the performance that we were giving. But Janet was like, let me pull you, let me stretch you. Let's show the audience a different color, a different side of you, because we have an opportunity to do that. And I just think that I'm so grateful for that, you know? So if anything, it was just like lean into who you are, trust that you're there for a reason, for a purpose, and like seize the moment, like you're there. So like, just eat it up. You know, that's what I felt. I remember me and Laura would be like, go ahead, just do it. Just go ahead and mess it up. Go ahead and, you know what I mean? Like, just do the thing. Like, we here, you know, like, don't hesitate with it. And to like have someone like Laura, we were able to support each other through that, hold it down for each other. It really like made it such an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Hi guys. Oh, hi. It's Carla, the Curvy Critic again. So just to piggyback off of what you were saying, Jeremy, about the whole ordeal with Broadway and the 8 shows a week and all of that, we're dealing with a very different normal right now. So there are no 8 shows a week for anybody on Broadway. There's nobody working in the entertainment industry. And for both you and Laura, how do you think the entertainment industry is going to move forward in this new normal? As we have states are opening up, but the entertainment industry, I think it's going to take a minute for it to get to some sort of normalcy, but it's not going to go back to what it was. So how do you guys, what are your feelings about that? And I'll start with Laura.
I mean, It's necessary. It's awful, but it's you know, this is what we have to do to keep people safe. I'm bummed because I love working and I want to keep working and I want to go to, you know, the next season. That's an opportunity, but I do think that it's important to not rush things because people's lives are more important than us going and making movies. Honest.
Yeah, I think, you know, on the other tip of the theater, you know, I'm reaching out to my cast, Ain't Too Proud, who, you know, like all Broadway was shut down, and just making sure they're good and they're taken care of, because I don't know what that looked like for theater. You know, I don't know when we'll be able to see Broadway come back. I know that once we start to open up our states and people start to go back to work, you know, it's entertainment. So I don't know if people are going to be spending their money that they, you know, were missing out on these past weeks on seeing a Broadway show. So what does that look like? What does that mean for our artists, our stage managers, our crews? You know, the Actors Fund has been so generous as far as setting up relief funds for people that are in need. And that was kind of my thing, is we're all kind of experiencing just weird time. So I like reached out, you know, to my cast and like, hey, if you need a meal, like, don't hesitate. Like, we got to all look out for each other during this time because it's just wacky and it's weird. So I do hope, you know, my guesstimation is maybe in the fall we'll start to see shows return. You know, I do hope that the Temptations, the show I was in, Ain't Too Proud, that it lasts a little bit. You know, I would hate to see it take a hit just because of something like this, but I know it's all within God's timing. I'm so grateful that I was able to have the experience I had with him, and, you know, that we were able to, you know, impact the people we did. The music and the legacy will live on. The Temptations will be forever. And Broadway will be forever. You know, we will still keep fighting to get those shows open. So I just hope and pray that, you know, it's going to take time and we have to be patient. I was looking forward to getting back to Broadway at the end, you know, during the summer, I think. But that doesn't look like that's happening. So just being patient and waiting. And when the time is right, we're going to go and we're going to tear it up. We're going to bring back, you know, bring it back better than ever.
I love
you.
it. And this is Patrick Riley in New York again, and I'll be at that opening night red carpet as well. This is my question for both of you. We can start with Laura, and then we'll come back to Jeremy. Before Hollywood, what was your favorite Ryan Murphy show or project?
Mine was Pose.
Mm-hmm.
I love that show. I think it was so important in increasing trans visibility of people of color, of women on TV. I think Ryan was really forward thinking in making that. And that is also, you know, that was Janet's baby. And that was kind of so much of her voice and her experience and her writing and everything. So I really was a big fan of Pose. And it's just like fun and they look amazing and they're dancing is amazing. It's just I love that show. So that was my favorite, as well as the Versace show that Darren was in. That was a great one too.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it was Pose. I have, being in New York, I have a lot of the girls that are on the show. They were my friends, and just kind of seeing them hit the pavement, and like there weren't opportunities for them. So to have a show that is centered and focused on them and making them glamorous and beautiful, and, you know, giving them story and, you know, opportunity, I just thought that was so great on Ryan. And that's how I was introduced to Janet and all the creatives over there. I'm going to be on the 3rd season of Pose. So I was in New York filming when COVID and all that stuff kind of went down. So before I was even, you know, cast, it was one of my favorites. So when he asked me and Janet was like basically bullying me, like, you're going to be on the show, I had this great role for you. And again, I, you know, will never, you know, miss an opportunity to work with Janet specifically or Ryan. So I knew that they're going to take care of their people and, you know, make us look good and feel good. And, you know, so I'm excited for that. But again, Pose, I just think it just was groundbreaking and gave so many people, you know, an outlook on what these women kind of go through day to day.
Awesome. Thank you. Excited for the two of you to be a part of this exciting brand.
Thank you.
Hi guys, Katya again. One of the things I loved about the show were the costuming. How much input did you have in the look of your character? Especially Camille, like she was everything, I feel like purposeful, probably because her position in the room, but it wasn't like, it's very flattering, like the colors and everything, even the way your hair was styled, it complimented you. Did you have some say? And then even Jeremy, for you with, you know, Archie's hair, you know, because, you know, hair is important and all of those things. You go first, Laura, please.
Yes, thank you, because I loved the costumes and Camille's whole look and style, and our costume design team was amazing, as well as our hair and makeup. But I really love that stuff with all of my characters. I try and be really involved because I think clothing is so important in creating a character and showing how this person feels and how they represent themselves to the world and how they walk through life. And so I'm always very hands-on with that. And for this, it was especially fun because pretty much all of our costumes was real dead stock vintage from the 40s, which is incredible that everything was in such good condition like that. So I just really wanted to make sure that Camille felt, you know, of that time, what would have been modern and fashion forward, but at the same time put together, because knowing that she's going to be the only Black girl in the room and she needs to walk in and carry herself a certain way and look at a certain level of together. It was really important that she felt like a movie star, you know, she needed to come in and be on point every single time. So I'm really grateful that we had a team like that, because I am not like that all the time, but Camille is. So she really kind of was super glamorous and beautiful, and it was so fun to get to wear her clothes.
Yeah, same. The costumes were major. Our costume team was super special. I had moved to LA a little bit early before we started filming. So I had about like 2 really long, like 5-hour fittings. And they were like, I know it's long, but it's going to be worth it. And we were basically just trying on so many outfits so we could build Archie's closet. And then it became fun because when I would show up on set, there would be like 5 outfits for me to choose from. It's like, what is Archie feeling? And I'm like, I'm feeling like this or that. So that was cool that we were able to do that. And they allowed me, you know, to give my input on that. The hair. So my hair used to be really long. And I had this idea of like, I think it should be kind of conked to the side, like real swag. So they're okay. They cut it a little bit and started like pressing and like, you know, flat ironing my hair. The way they burnt my hair out for our screen test, I was like, nah, this ain't gonna work. I'm not gonna sit in this hair chair. Like, y'all women that get y'all hair done, I have so much respect for y'all. That heat to that scalp, no. So I was like, we're gonna have to get a wig. That's what we're gonna have to do. Because I was also like, I don't want to sit in the chair. I was like, if I sweat, this curl is about to be something different. So I knew how Black hair works. So I said, let's go ahead and build a nice wig. We'll come in 15 minutes early. We'll lay it down, glue it together. Y'all do what y'all need to do, and it'll be consistent. So I'm so grateful we did that. I have pictures on my phone that no one will ever see from our screen test, where you have my hair like, and it looks good at the top of the day, but around 2:15 lunchtime, it was a whole different situation. So I'm grateful they spent the money to make sure I had a really, really good wig, because hair was on fleek for Archie in season 1 of Hollywood.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Hey, this is Al McGee with your entertainment ticket here in Florida. This is for Laura, and I'm a big fan of Queen Latifah. And when you had that scene with Queen Latifah, did you all exchange anything, any information between the two of you about acting or the piece itself?
Well, I am a huge fan of her as well. And when I found out that she was going to be playing Hattie McDaniels, I was just elated and so excited. I mean, the old Jeremy saw me, I was like, not chill at all. I was really excited. So it was really, you know, it added another level to this performance, because the story of Hattie, I mean, it's so heartbreaking. She went through so much adversity and so much strife. And, you know, I feel like so did Queen Latifah, and she worked her ass off to get to where she is. And luckily she came out the other side as an incredibly successful and is this icon, and like what was able to happen for Hattie. But I really kind of looked at it in a way that Camille would have grown up watching Hattie McDaniels same way that I grew up watching Queen Latifah, and would have, you know, she would have been this major Black figure that she saw on screen, and at the time kind of the only one. So it was really sort of much easier for me to tap into the reality of those moments and the story that she was telling, because I think, you know, my response to Queen Latifah telling me that is the same of Camille's hearing Hattie's tell that. And it made it a lot easier just to hear that story from someone that I admire so much. I don't think we really I mean, I think we talked more about, you know, the reality of what Hattie went through. And then I just kind of was a fangirl and asked her a lot of questions and wanted to know about Set It Off and when Living Single 2 is coming out, and really just kind of fanned out a little. But that was pretty much the extent of like our question about acting.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both. Again, this has been a wonderful experience. I know in my career, I've been fortunate to be at the start of a number of careers that have now gone the full length of, you know, Mount Everest. And I am confident that we're witnessing that type of moment now with the two of you. And I don't say that too often. So God bless to both of you. We are looking out for you. We are here to support you. And yeah, have a great day.
Thank you, guys. This has been the best. This has been the best. I can't tell you how amazing this feels to look at my screen and see so many beautiful people of color holding it down. So thank you all.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank
All
you
right.
all for taking the time.
Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. See you guys soon. Bye.